Hello, you're playing The Waiting Game, the show that helps you decide, discover, and enjoy other things, besides the games that you would kill your very best friend and step over your own mother just to get your hands on early. One reader, Julian J. Julesworth, writes, "Hi Seb, I like to celebrate the games as much as the next guy. You should do an episode on Half-Life 3 in the event that the show gets canned. I make a cool 50k a year and buy roughly one game per month, so these things are important to me." That's a great question, JJ.
Not a question.
Can I call you JJ? Listen, JJ, you seem like a cool guy in his early 20s. In the unlikely event that this is the final episode of The Waiting Game, here's all the things that you should do while we wait for Half-Life 3 to arrive and probably never.
They're waiting for you, Gordon.
But first, some backstory. Half-Life 3 is like the holy grail of games, and I mean that in a more literal sense than your average Troy or Steve throws around the phrase holy grail. Nobody knows if it is or ever was real, if a savior ever really held it, or exactly how crunk you can get using it. What we do know is that the Half-Life series, created by Valve Software, is a first-person sci-fi shooter with an insane following. It's regarded by most to be one of the greatest game series ever made, and Half-Life 3 is probably the most anticipated game in the world. So you should definitely go and play Duke Nukem Forever. Even assuming Gabe Newell took to the roof of the Valve building tomorrow and bellowed naked that Half-Life 3 and Santa Claus is real, it would only be a mere 6.5 years since Half-Life 2 Episode 2 came out. Duke Nukem Forever, on the other hand, was first announced in April 1997 by 3D Realms and only made it into stores a cool 15 years later. And what's worse is it wasn't even that good. It was rehashed across several console generations, so by the time it arrived, it was already dated, it was childish, vulgar, and easy, kind of like Greg. Really? Greg? Nothing?
No, that's kind of accurate.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There's heaps of titles that required a long wait between iterations that will definitely sate your thirst for zen killing. The classic tale Bambi was released all the way back in 1942. Look at his little hoof feet. Well, fans of that film didn't see Bambi 2, Bambi Harder hit the silver screen until 2006. That's a 63-year wait. Bambi, along with most of the original audience, definitely dead.
Just right for finding your own quiet space.
I'm not even recommending it. It's a cartoon about a talking deer and rabbit. Then again, deer and rabbit can be hunted for game, and Half-Life is a game. So by that virtue...
Watch Bambi, just don't. It's irrelevant, it's heartbreaking, it's...
My show, Greg. You're here to push the buttons. Fine, you should also play Gunman Chronicles. This FPS space western started out as a deathmatch mod, moving across the Quake and Quake 2 engines, and finally settling down with Half-Life, where it was commissioned into a full game. It's good, and you should play it. We have a lot to get through, and I have plans. Aside from the fact that Half-Life 3 is definitely being made, there's always the chance that it's not, even though it definitely is. But just in case it isn't, you should check out Firefly. Much like Gunman Chronicles, it's about space cowboys. It's made by Joss Whedon, and it's the best TV show in the world. Frankly, I don't even know why I'm recommending this. You should all have seen this. In fact, if you've seen Gossip Girl, Glee, or The Hills, and you haven't seen Firefly, headbutt a bag of hammers and then watch it.
A trade? Hell, it's theft. This is the best damn gun made by man. It has extreme sentimental value. It's miles more worthy than what you got.
What I got? She has a name.
So does this. I call it Vera.
Thing is, due to the onset of stupidity by morons, Firefly was cancelled after just 14 spectacular episodes, leaving regular people all... which led to...
Please push forward.
Which caused... which inspired... which resulted in... which brought about...
Time to repopulate the Earth, Greg! Oh, come on, let me do it! No!
People eating and shagging each other in the streets in the fall of mankind, but I digress. Firefly was the perfect example of having your favorite toy taken away, smashed, and then glued hastily back together so you could play with it one last time in the form of a feature film called Serenity. It was nice to get some closure, but it's not what we wanted. This is what happens when you rush things. The opening scene of Half-Life looks like this. Soda's riding the London Docklands Light Railway. Grab a lab coat and a crowbar and take the route from Shadwell to Beckton. It's like you're a real theoretical physicist.
Please remember to take all your belongings with you.
Or try putting a clock inside a microwave. That way, you could create your own portal to Zen and bring forth all...
All right, this is where I have to step in. Kids, don't actually put a clock in your microwave. It might actually kill you.
Greg from the future.
Seb, I just walked from behind the camera. That
Feels like real skin. Oh. You should also watch War of the Worlds, because these three-legged things look like these three-legged things. And Starship Troopers, because the Combine Advisor is basically the horrible bastard brain bug. Don't worry, it's afraid.
It's afraid.
It's afraid? It's afraid! Everything we recommend here on The Waiting Game costs money, so here's a bit of extra free advice. For the true sensation of waiting for Half-Life 3, try sitting on your left hand during your next bit of alone time.
Are you recommending The Stranger?
Much like Half-Life 3, it will take ages, but the results will be excellent.
Oh my god.
And on that note, in case you haven't already figured it out, this is the final episode of The Waiting Game. It has been a treat and a pleasure recommending all sorts of books, TV shows, films, and weird, bizarre experiences for the past few weeks. Steve S. Stevelington said of the show, "Cool show." Thanks, Steve. While Troy T. Troyman asks, what do wise men say? Another great question from another great contributor, and I'm sure I speak for Greg when I say that producing this show has been hugely, hugely rewarding. Future Greg, come up here and take a bow.
I'm not from the future.
Shut up. I know I speak for Johnny when I say producing this show has been hugely, hugely rewarding. Come and take a bow, Johnny. Thanks, Johnny. Just time for our lovely slider outro shot. Greg, if you would. There's plenty of other great content over at GameSpot.com and YouTube.com/GameSpot. You can find me on such shows as GTA Diaries and Top 5 Skyrim Mods of the Week, as well as plenty of GameSpot news. Greg, can you just slide that smoothly, please?
Both my hands are numb.
Feels weird, right? I got that.
Yeah, to me.